been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British, of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time.
So would you invite Kier to your pub, Kier Starmer, the Prime Minister?
No, he's banned. He's the first person to be banned. He's actually on a board in the hall. He's banned.
Clarkson has been making waves on X, taking brutal shots at Starmer. One of his most shocking statements? He'd prefer Vladimir Putin running the UK over Starmer. That's not just frustration, that's outright outrage. And he's not alone. Many Brits share the sentiment, frustrated with what they see as weak leadership, broken promises, and a total disconnect from real issues. But it wasn't just the meeting itself that pushed Clarkson over the edge, it was Starmer's attempt to impress Trump by bringing up Winston Churchill. The irony? He had previously removed Churchill's portrait from Downing Street. Add to that his questionable stance on free speech, and people couldn't help but shake their heads. And as for Clarkson? He's just getting started.
I'm also an ardent Remainer and a nature lover who enjoys books. And in a minute, I'm going on a walk with my dogs in the woods, but I really don't like Starmer. I'd rather have Putin than Starmer.
Criticize them over the EU, the fact that yes, there was that encounter as you're showing on the screen there with JD Vance, but all in all, this was a pretty good day at the office for Kier Starmer. And look, he may change his mind by tomorrow, Donald Trump. There may be other future encounters, but overall, I think that they will be happy with how this visit went, given how important the meeting was and all the high stakes.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that Labour will be happy with it, but unfortunately, they also represent the nation, they represent the people, and I think this is what's wrong with politics in this country, is that politicians think that once they get in and once they get the power, it's all about whether they can stay there and whether they can impress each other and get patted on the back. I mean, the touching that was going on, the sort of the fawning, it was just, incredibly cringeworthy, it seems to me. And also, I mean, we've got plenty of evidence, and we'll play the clips possibly later, of him saying he hates Donald Trump. He thinks Donald Trump's dangerous. He thinks Donald Trump should not be welcome into Britain. He actually said yesterday, the last time you came, it was a great success. People on his front bench were campaigning against him even coming to Britain, and David Lammy was sitting there in the same bloody...
Jeremy Clarkson never holds back, and this time, he's taking aim at Kier Starmer. The former Top Gear host has been outspoken, making it crystal clear he's had enough. But what's got Clarkson so fired up? It all kicked off after Starmer's meeting with Donald Trump. While the Labour leader tried to paint it as a success, the cracks were impossible to miss. And Clarkson? He wasn't buying any of it. Despite being a self-proclaimed Remainer, a nature lover, and an avid reader who enjoys walks with his dogs, he's made one thing clear. He'd rather have Putin running the UK than Starmer.
I've got a photograph here of Britain's idea of infrastructure investment, okay? It's a T-junction that they've designed for reasons known only to themselves to look like a roundabout.
And let me guess, it cost 100 grand to do it.
No, it was £500,000, yes.
Of course it was, yeah.
Some paving slabs, which
Exactly.
is what that is.
Anyway, Dubai's idea of infrastructure investment is a little bit different, because what they're planning is this, the Hyperloop. It's like a tube train, and it'll go from Dubai to Abu Dhabi, which is about 100 miles away, in 12 minutes.
12 minutes?
Wow. 12 minutes.
So how fast does it go?
500 miles an hour.
It's going 100 miles at 500 miles an hour in 12 minutes. That means it accelerates to 500 miles an hour.
Jeremy Clarkson has never been shy about sharing his opinions, and lately, he's been more outspoken than ever. His harsh criticism of Kier Starmer has sparked a wildfire of reactions, especially after he said he'd rather have Vladimir Putin in charge of Britain than Starmer, not because he admires Putin, but because he sees Starmer as weak and out of touch with ordinary Brits. Clarkson has been relentless in calling out UK policies, from crushing taxes on farmers to housing plans threatening the countryside. His posts have become a rallying point for those frustrated with the country's direction. One of Clarkson's biggest battles is the fight for British farmers, driven in part by his show Clarkson's Farm. A major issue is the inheritance tax, which forces farmers to sell their land because they can't afford the massive tax bills when passing it down to their children. Clarkson sees this as a betrayal of those who keep the country fed. He's also slammed the government's housing plans, led by Starmer and Angela Rayner, which push for countryside developments instead of using brownfield sites. Clarkson warns that shrinking farmland will make Britain more reliant on imported food, leading to higher prices and lower quality. Clarkson isn't a politician, and that's exactly why people listen. He speaks without a filter, voicing frustrations many Brits share but feel powerless to address. And based on the overwhelming response, he's far from alone.